Welcome to the NBA Now and Then, 50, 40, 90 interview series.
All right, everyone. This is Uriah with NBA Now and Then, the greatest comparisons. And I have my co-host here, or one of my co-hosts with our show, Lucas Johnson. What's up, Lucas? How you been, buddy?
Been doing all right, man. Happy to be on.
So today we are starting our interview series where we bring you top-notch guests who have their finger on the pulse of things going on in and around the NBA. These guests provide unique insight into the realm of basketball from their unique perspective. So I would officially like to introduce Larry Atkins. How are you, Larry?
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Happy to have you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I've known Larry for almost 8-9 years, something like that, Larry.
Yeah. Say so. Yeah.
Yeah, we served on the board for the Philadelphia Writers Conference, and plenty of great conversations during the conference, walking back to the subway, going back to our respective homes. And I know you're a big Shake Milton fan. I don't know how you feel about him getting traded from the Sixers, but
I hope somebody gives him a chance. Minnesota only gave him about 12 or 15 games and gave up on him, and then nobody else played him. So I still believe in Shake if he gets a shot.
Well, yes. I think he's on the Knicks, but the Knicks might include him in that Mikal Bridges trade.
It just happened, I think, recently. So, he's for now in that, but that could easily...
Hey, him and Ben Simmons reunion, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they are former teammates. All right, let's get to Larry's bio. Prolific writer, amazing writer, and we're interviewing him for his recently released book. But first, Larry Atkins is the author of Foul or Fair, Ethical and Social Issues in Sports by McFarland Books. He teaches journalism at Temple University and Arcadia University and social and ethical issues in sports and sports law at Arcadia University. He's written over 500 articles and essays for many publications. Yeah, exactly. Take me probably 10 years just to get that much content out, including The Hill, Newsweek, Washington Post, NPR commentaries, Baltimore Sun, Chicago Tribune, Dallas Morning News, NCAA News, New York Daily News, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Philadelphia Magazine, the San Francisco Chronicle, and more. He is a member of the American Society of Journalists and Authors and the Authors Guild.
That is a lot, man. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. That is all. I actually remember getting a letter from Arcadia back when I was looking at colleges when I was in high school my senior year. So that's I
didn't know that. You got a little invitation to go to Arcadia?
I got a lot of invitations, dude. I'm a smart guy.
Yeah. By the way, Larry, I read Lucas's was it a thesis essay or something?
Oh, yeah. So my senior thesis for my undergraduate was on Bill Russell's involvement in the civil rights movement.
Oh, okay. Great.
If you ever want to read it, just if you want to read it, I'll send it to you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I talk about that in my book as well.
Yeah,
if I was like athletes speaking out on social issues. So he was.
Speaking of your book, Larry, here it is right here: Foul or Fair: Ethical and Social Issues in Sports. And we're going to stick to basketball mainly, even though you go over every sport out there or sports that would be considered sports, even though they may not involve a lot of physical activity. Let's start with NBA stuff, Larry. Let's have some fun with your fandom. Tell us about your team. Who have you followed since you were a kid up until today? Who is your squad? Tell us about how you started loving the NBA.
Sure. Well, I've always been a 76ers fan. I grew up in the Philadelphia area, suburbs. And started watching and going to games in maybe the mid 1970s. Two notable games. I guess one, I went to the game 2 in 1977 when the Sixers took a 2-0 lead against Portland. Doug Collins had a great game and things looked great. Looked like maybe we'll sweep them, but obviously it didn't turn out that way. So it turned out to be a disappointment. But at the time, I was very happy. But then on a happier note, I was at arguably the greatest game in Sixers history. And I mentioned this in the book. I just, by chance, I went out to, had a month-long trip out west, driving just by chance, we were in Los Angeles, me and a couple friends, and it was game 4 of the Sixers-Lakers 1983 final series. We wanted to go, and we looked in the Los Angeles Times, and I guess one ads or whatever ads classifieds, and saw a ticket broker selling tickets for the game for $25, and we went. And like Lakers fans, they gave up on the team. It was 3-0. And we were able to get the tickets. We were there for the final game, and that was obviously pretty amazing.
Could you imagine buying NBA Finals tickets for $25 today?
Probably impossible. Add a couple zeros.
That might get you. Yeah, that might get you a hot dog if you're lucky.
Yeah, that's exciting. And that game 4, you were in California. I was in my parents' bedroom as like a first grader. I watched that end of that game, and when Maurice Cheeks dunked the basketball, that's when I fell in love with basketball, Larry. So it's interesting how we are connecting now so many years later.
I wasn't even a thought.
Yeah, you weren't born
I wasn't even a thought. Yeah, give it about 9 years, okay?
All right, so my question, Larry, has to do with the chapters in your book, and you have 12 chapters, and what I want to do is just read them to the listeners or the viewers so that they know kind of what order things go, and then the question is related to how you feel about a certain chapter. So chapter 1, what is a sport? Chapter 2, values of sports and sportsmanship. Chapter 3 goes into gambling. Chapter 4, media coverage, athletes as social advocates, fan obsession, medical and psychological issues, legal issues, youth sports, college sports, professional sports, and Olympic sports. So you cover the gamut of ethics when it comes to anything and all related to sports. So out of all those chapters, Larry, which one stands out to you and why?
Well, I love all of them, but I mean, because it was fun writing all of them. But I don't know. I kind of like the first chapter as far as like what is a sport, and got into sort of like fun debates as to, at least I think, of sort of like, like all of these sports or games or whatever you want to call them advocate for the Olympics and advocate that they should be NCAA sports and things like that. And so, again, competitive cheerleading, esports, even Quidditch, now called quad ball, poker, some think it should be an Olympic sport. I mean, there's just competitive eaters. I forgot if I mentioned that. They consider themselves to be a sport. So people advocated, probably in New Zealand, sheep shearing should be an Olympic sport. There's all kinds of like weird stuff out there that, people think should be Olympic sports. And then maybe on the other side, I kind of raised the fact, like, really, should golf be an Olympic sport? I don't know, is auto racing like really a sport? Are they athletes? So some things that we traditionally think of as sports, I kind of wonder, I guess, about that.
Now, the one thing before Lucas asks the next question, I do recall in that chapter, Larry, you have a lot of examples. You get primary sources, and the one thing I loved about your book is that it really makes you think. It makes you think about things that maybe you had not given any thought to, about like what could be a sport or what would be an ethical issue within the realm of sports, particularly basketball, because we're a basketball podcast. But yeah, I love that you gave great examples and you gave quotes from different writers and different researchers.
Thanks.
Following up on that, that's my question is, who were some of the well-known sports journalists and sports figures that you were able to get quotes from for your book? And is there anyone that stands out?
I mean, locally for Philadelphia people, Mike Missinelli and Glenn Macnow are two well-known sports talk show hosts for years in the Philadelphia area. So I got quotes from them. Fran Dunphy, coach at LaSalle University, longtime coach at Penn and Temple as well. Joe Valerio, former NFL player. I mean, I interviewed professors, athletes, coaches, like a wide spectrum of people. Two of the more interesting, I think, people, I guess. Leslie Goodell, who used to be on Comcast Sportsnet and also ABC Sports. I thought she had a lot of really interesting quotes about, like in the media chapter, I have a whole long section about women sportscasters and the challenges that they face. They weren't even allowed in locker rooms until like a lawsuit around 50 years ago. And so, she had a lot of challenges that she mentioned as far as establishing credibility, as far as trying to get athletes and people to take her seriously. And she said, and I mentioned in the book, that it's much better now for women. There's many more women writers, women sportscasters, and it's not such an anomaly as it was like years ago. But at least for many years, it was a challenge.
Yeah, when I think of female sportscasters who pioneered it, I think of Jackie McMenamin of the Boston Globe, and then ESPN. That's who I think of. But yeah, absolutely, Goodell's also a good one for sure.
Yeah, she was good on the debate. I forget what it's called. At 5:30, they would all be on the screen debating.
Yeah. Not pardon the interruption. What's the other one on ESPN? I can't remember the name of it.
No, I think I don't know. Uriah, are you talking about the local Comcast?
No. With Jackie Lucas mentioned.
Oh gosh, it's the guy. I know which one you're talking about. I can't remember the name.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, it'll pop in our head when we least expect it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but Leslie Goodell knows her stuff. I love watching her on the sportscast for Comcast or NBC Sports Philly. My question, your book it's like really interesting, has a lot of great facts, things that the average person wouldn't know. You peeled back layers of knowledge that sports fans should appreciate when it comes to ethics and social issues. But I'm going to throw some fun questions at you to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. So I have some basketball scenarios, Larry. Let's see which one you would pick.
Okay.
Which unethical action, in your opinion, is most annoying to watch during a basketball game? Hack-a-Shaq fouling or flopping?
Ooh, I'm excited to hear the answer to this.
I mean, both are very annoying, and I'm glad that the NBA is at least trying to crack down on the flopping. But I'd say the Hack-a-Shaq, or as Sixers fans know, the Hack-a-Ben, in the playoffs against Atlanta, they were doing that. I'd say that's more frustrating because it stops the flow of the game. And just generally, I don't like when games are called tightly by the refs. I mean, I know they have to avoid fights and things like that, physical play, tone it down. But I'm not a big fan of just a ton of foul shots in a game. And the Hack-a-Shaq, Hack-a-Ben just means more foul shots. Mm-hmm. I understand it strategically to put a 50% foul shooter on the line. Makes sense, but it's annoying to watch as a fan.
Yeah, even before that, there was a game where Scott Brooks was coaching the Wizards, and they just started fouling Ben Simmons. I think maybe even in the third quarter, it was slowing the game down.
Oh, yeah.
It was very annoying as a fan, so I actually agree with you.
Yeah, that was in that playoff run right before the Hawks series. That ruined. But anyway, we're not going to get into that.
All right, Larry, which is worse, running up the score on an opponent or not shaking hands after the game?
Okay, so again, both. I'd say it depends on, like, with running up the score, it can be a bad thing. I mean, like every year you read about, a high school game where it's 100-3 or something like that. You don't see as many as those because of the mercy rule and running clocks and things like that. But I think that if it's a blowout game and the coach isn't playing their subs, their deep subs, and giving kids a chance to play, if they're still full court pressing with a 50-point lead or something like that, I'd say that's not a good thing.
Yeah, because like people sometimes, grown men and kids alike, sometimes you're too emotional that you can't shake hands. But running up the score, I think, is worse.
Yeah, well, the one thing, Larry, that I loved reading that section of your book is I'd never thought, because I've been to games where I've seen teams getting blown out, like the score you said, 100-3, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, because I used to coach basketball too, and I'd be like, why is this happening? But then in your book, you said, look, there are some subs that rarely get playing time, and it's probably their only time to show what they have. And when you put that in the book, it just completely not twisted, but it rearranged my perspective on that. So that's another reason why I love your book, because it makes you think about the other side of an argument. And the last question before Lucas jumps back in, which of these do you think hurts sports fans more, particularly basketball? Load management or betting on games? Players betting on games. Players betting on games.
Right. Again, both not good.
Right.
I find load management very frustrating. Fans would find it very frustrating if they pay a lot of money for a ticket and that star player doesn't show up. But as far as like the integrity of the game, I would say, if a player is betting on their own team, it's probably not good, especially if they're betting on their own team to lose, which I guess just happened recently with Toronto.
Dejounte Porter.
Right, exactly. And I think he's banned for life.
Yep,
banned for life. Yep.
Yeah. And that's where I'd say obviously going back to baseball and, the Black Sox and the point shaving scandals of the, 1950s, just the concept of gambling, can be a problem by the players.
I think every major's, I know the NFL has had a gambling scandal. Now the NBA has. We know MLB has had it in the past, and even currently with the guy from the Dodgers,
Ohtani.
Ohtani. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know if NHL has yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Let me just ask you this. Should betting on sports be legalized? Because some teams are allowing betting vendors inside the stadiums. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah. I guess for a while I thought that, especially with college sports, that gambling should be illegal, that you shouldn't be allowed to gamble on college sports. But now I guess my thinking might be that if they push it underground, if they make it illegal, that it's going to be like what it was maybe in the 1950s or 1960s with illegal bookies and things like that. And it wouldn't be regulated and it'd be harder to monitor and you might see more point shaving. So I'd say maybe there's more checks and balances and regulations by having it monitored. But one thing I don't like is how it's so normalized, I guess, in society that, literally every game you watch, you're going to see a gambling commercial, whatever it's DraftKings or something like that.
ESPN.
At halftime of a game, they'll have the live line.
Yeah.
It's just, and especially with young people, the gambling addictions that, there's a high percent, I don't know if you'd call it a high percentage, but maybe 5 to 10% of young people have gambling addictions. And, it's just so normalized in society. And, I have no problems with, gambling. I'll play an NCAA pool. I'll go to a casino once in a while. I have no problem with gambling. It's just that a lot of people don't know their limits, right. And it can be a disease. And you see a lot of people, suffer that. So, I'd say as long as you know your limits and you bet within your means, no problem with it, but it can be a problem.
Yeah. Lucas, you had another question?
No, my follow-up question, and this kind of goes back to more the ethics, not so much which is worse, but what are your thoughts about teams that secure high draft picks through tanking?
I hate it. I never trusted the process, didn't like it from the beginning. You saw several years of just horrible basketball, fans paying money to see just, a really bad product. The players were trying, the coaches were trying, but general manager was purposely trying to have a bad team to get better draft picks. And I just think recent years, or just really for a long time, shows that you don't have to tank to win. You just have to draft well, have really good scouting, make good trades, be willing to spend money on free agency, to be, really good at the salary cap. There's just tons of other ways of doing it. So I was just never a fan of it at all. And luckily, I think it's a good thing that the NBA has made it a little harder now to, they made it so that the team with the worst record, it's a little harder for them to, it isn't as guaranteed as it used to be to get the first pick. And I think that's a good thing.
Well, let me ask you this. What is the difference between what the Sixers did during the process and what the Oklahoma City Thunder recently did with their rebuild?
Well, maybe the Sixers were more honest with it, like with their marketing, say, trust the process. But I mean, with OKC, I mean, I guess their whole goal was to sort of have a lot of draft picks and a lot of, build with good young players. And, right now, it seems to be working.
Okay.
I think it's interesting how the Sixers tried to emulate that whole situation that OKC was able to look out, get KD, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. So they're like, oh, maybe if we stockpile assets and, we lose on purpose, it just didn't happen for them. And I was actually in your camp, Larry. I didn't like it then. I didn't like it. I don't like it now. And my side is, well, did Milwaukee, did Miami, did Boston, did Denver, all those teams who have been to the finals in the past 4 or 5 years, did they have to tank? And the answer is no. So I think we can all agree on that. It probably wasn't the best.
Well, Boston got lucky because they made one of the most lopsided trades in NBA history.
Yes, they did. I know you're talking about the Brooklyn.
Yeah, because otherwise they wouldn't have been where they were at.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk now, Larry, about the incident or the pandemic that happened. Everything shut down. The coronavirus impacted the world. No one had ever experienced anything like that ever. And of course, sports, we didn't have sports for a while. And it was really tough for people to not tune into their favorite teams. But my question to you is how the NBA handled it. In your book, you did talk about it extensively. What comes to mind when you think about how the NBA handled the coronavirus?
I mean, I'd say generally, I think they handled it very well. Obviously, yeah, I mean, really, I think people weren't taking the virus seriously until Rudy Gobert tested positive, and the NBA almost immediately shut down. I mean, I guess Tom Hanks and his wife got COVID. That was another thing. But I think it was really reality hit home, not just for sports fans, but for society to see an entire league shut down, then other sports shut down. And I mean, there was talk about having games with no fans. I think they did the responsible thing, the bubble. I mean, that worked out well. I mean, it was weird seeing those games with no fans and with the TV monitors of fans at home clapping or whatever. That was strange, but it worked. The games were played, and I think the NBA handled it well.
I tend to agree on that one. Let's shift from the professionals to college, even though, is it really even college anymore? Because let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on college athletes getting paid for their name, image, and likeness now? Is it really amateur? Let me know your thoughts.
Great for the players, obviously. I mean, for decades, they weren't paid, weren't getting anything. A lot of them, I mean, Shabazz Napier in an interview after UConn won the national championship said there were nights when he was going hungry. And so, the players were clearly, the deck was stacked against them. Now I think maybe it's swung too much the other way. So it's great for the players. They, getting, multi-million-dollar deals. But not good for the coaches. They have to literally restock the roster, most of the roster, almost every year now. Especially for mid-majors. If a player is going to be really good, then they're probably going to want to transfer up to a Power 5 team. Well, Power 4 team, whatever you want to call it now. Lose those really good players because those bigger conferences have bigger TV contracts and much more NIL money in the collectives that they can say, hey, instead of getting $30,000 at your mid-major, we'll pay you $800,000. Matt Rule did an interview maybe 6 months ago, saying something like, to get a really good quarterback now in the transfer portal, it'll cost you $1 million to $2 million. And it's just like a bidding war. From the fan standpoint, I'd say it's frustrating because, you latch onto a player and boom, they're gone after a year. And the transfer portal can be great for the players, but for coaches, fans, it can be frustrating.
For me, and I agree that it is good for the players, but I think there needs to be some type of limiters on how many times you can transfer, when you can transfer, because some players transfer during the season. I'm not a fan of that. You get maybe 2 transfers during your college career so that we're not transferring every single year. I also think that NIL is not good for the college. I think, they recently passed a law, NCAA recently settled on a thing saying, will colleges have to pay their players directly? I think all colleges should have a flat rate for their players based off of position or sport, and so that it's an equal playing field, so that it's not just everybody following the money, and that everybody's. It's if I want equality, and be like you're going to school because of opportunity and because if you're in, let's say you're from Oklahoma and you want to go to Oklahoma, but then UCLA offers you like $50,000 more, where are you going to go?
Right.
So like I wish that part of the component, like NIL needs to go, but that's just my thoughts. I don't know if you agree with that, Larry. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, what you said is a good idea. I think, and Rick Pitino and others have suggested like a salary cap for teams that okay, like every school gets $1 million. You can spend it on the players how you want. I mean, I think that was his position, or others have had that position, and just so that you don't get these bidding wars. Everybody's in the same boat. The players will get paid. So. Salary cap. I mean, if we're treating them like professionals, why not have a salary cap like all professional leagues? Yep.
Well, there will be plenty of committees to help resolve some of these issues beyond our pay grade. Let's go to the next question. Larry, we're going to go back to the NBA. And I want to know from you, out of all of the unethical situations that have popped up in the history of the NBA, is there one that stands out to you particularly, and why?
I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe the concept of betting on your own team. I kind of, that's a tough one. I mean, I know in other levels, the point shaving scandals with college, the Spanish Paralympic team, which in 2000, the whole team, except for 2 players, like 10 players, pretended to be learning disabled, and they won a gold medal. And I mean, that was a disgrace. I mean, that was just horrible that they did that. NBA, I can't really think of. I mean, you see tripping and cheap shots and things like that. I mean, like the Soviets didn't cheat, but the 1972 Munich Olympics, that they were cheated. It was just referee incompetence as far as that happened. So that was
that the full length pass where he made a shot at the last second? Yeah.
Yep, they got 3 shots at it, basically. And that was just outrageous, and I remember watching that as a kid and just being outraged. Otherwise, I don't know, like does the Harlem Globetrotters pulling down a player's shorts during that's sort of unethical. I guess
very unethical. But that's part of their shtick, though, right?
Yeah. But I can't think of NBA really.
Okay.
Well, last question before we get to the fun stuff here. For any aspiring journalists or authors watching or listening, what advice would you give them?
I mean, for journalists, I would say, get your name out there, have a website, a blog, podcast, get a lot of internships with various places, and a place especially that you'd want to work at. Network, make connections with people in the profession, in the field, get to know them, get a mentor, get clips, like writing samples of your work, like write for the school paper, be in the campus radio station, the campus TV station, freelance for local newspapers, try to, freelance for magazines, have geographic flexibility, like your first job might have to be in a really small town and maybe you have to work there a year or 2, but it'd be maybe a great job. Maybe you're a sports talk host when you wouldn't get that opportunity right away in a bigger city or nationally, and just kind of, pay your dues. Also have multimedia skills, writing and video and photography, makes you more marketable, web design. Yeah, and as far as authors, be persistent. It helps to have an agent. Don't get frustrated, and just realize that there's a lot of publishers out there, and getting an agent definitely helps with the larger publications. But there are smaller ones where you don't need an agent. So I'd say there's a lot of opportunities out there.
Oh, great,
very cool.
Great. And speaking of that advice, networking. The reason why I met Larry is because I put myself out there, even though I wasn't published as well as Larry was. But As a result, I met a lot of great writers in the Philly area, and proud to know this guy right here, Larry Atkins.
And now, get ready for the NBA Now and Then Draft Time Machine.
Larry, we're going to transition to a very special segment before we let you go. We have done over 24 player comparisons from the NBA, and we're going to go to not all of them because some of them are like no-brainers, but we picked ones that we thought would be a little bit challenging. So here's how it goes. We're going to give you 2 NBA stars from 2 different eras, but they're in the same draft class, and they're projected to go in the first round, either first or second. And just for fun, because some of these players didn't play long or their careers were cut short because they got hurt. So for fun, if you were guaranteed that both players could have a decade-long career of equally good health, who would you pick? I'll go first. Here we go. In the same draft, first or second, who would you go with? Devin Booker or Gilbert Arenas?
Devin Booker. Yeah.
Okay. No brainer. Okay.
Question. No brainer. I think.
Next one. Jason Williams or LaMelo Ball?
White chocolate. Let's just be clear. White chocolate.
Right now,
white chocolate. Yep.
You had the health qualification, so I think if LaMelo Ball ever gets healthy, I'll go with him.
Okay, fair enough.
Penny Hardaway or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
That's a tough one because if you go with total career, you'd go with Penny Hardaway. But I'd say if you go with potential, I would go with SGA.
Yeah, right. You skipped yours. You did mine, but I'll do yours. Okay.
Oh, I skipped yours. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll do mine.
I'll do yours, and then
we'll get back on.
Okay.
But wait, you didn't pick one. Who'd you pick?
Oh, I'll go with SGA.
SGA. Okay.
Okay. Fair enough. That's who I would pick too. But anyway, Draymond Green or Ron Artest?
I'd say Draymond Green, no brainer.
Okay.
For me.
All right. Giannis Antetokounmpo or Sean Kemp?
I'd say Giannis, no brainer.
Okay. Jamal Murray or Darren Williams?
I'll take Jamal Murray.
Okay.
All right. How about Luka Doncic or Larry Bird?
I'll go with Larry Bird. Those titles.
Ooh. Okay.
Multiple titles help.
Okay. Joel Embiid or Hakeem Olajuwon?
That's a tough one. I mean, I'll go Olajuwon. Just,
okay.
I guess. I mean, look, if Joel Embiid wins 1 or 2 titles, then maybe I'd go with Joel Embiid. But for now, yeah,
okay.
I'll go Olajuwon.
All right, we talked about 2 big men just now. How about these 2 little guys? Amazing players equally. Kyrie Irving or Isaiah Thomas? Pistons, Isaiah.
Tough one. I'll go as much as I, speaking about shaking hands, I guess with Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons didn't do, I'll go with Isaiah Thomas.
Okay.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, that is a tough one. Damian Lillard or Reggie Miller?
Tough one. I'll go with Reggie Miller.
All right.
Longevity, fair enough.
Yeah.
A tough one.
Yeah, very clutch players, both of them. How about recently crowned NBA champ Jason Tatum or Paul Pierce?
I'll go Jason Tatum.
Okay. De'Aaron Fox or Nick Van Exel?
I'll go De'Aaron Fox.
Okay.
All right. How about Rudy Gobert or Dikembe Mutombo?
Tough one. As a Sixers fan, I'll go with Mutombo.
There we go. I'll take that.
In there.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're really the same player. We did that comparison, Larry, and they were very similar. Very similar.
That was actually one of our longer comparisons, and I don't think anybody was expecting that to be a long one.
Yeah. Agreed. Here's another one. I feel some hometown bias coming, though. We'll find out. James Harden or Allen Iverson?
I see that smirk.
Yeah. I'll take Iverson.
Okay.
It's tough. Tough call.
Okay.
Fair enough. Okay, so actually, you took mine again.
How did I do that? I'm not
You
reading this
you
right.
just got you got excited. I get the next two.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. My bad.
Paulo Banchero or Blake Griffin?
On potential, I'll go with Banchero.
Interesting. Okay. And then Jalen Brunson or Chauncey Billups?
I'd say Jalen Brunson. To me,
Ooh.
no-brainer.
Okay.
And the last comparison is actually a collection of players. We did a special episode category where we went back and we peeled back layers of players and their backgrounds when it came to the draft classes. And we went to the 1984 draft class, compared it to the 1996 draft class. So in 1984, you have Jordan, Olajuwon, John Stockton. 96, you had Kobe, Iverson, Steve Nash. So based on what you know, who would you go with?
I'll go with 84. I think Barkley too, right? I
Yes,
believe.
Charles Barkley.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, tough call. Probably two best classes ever. I'll go with 84.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Very good. So we have now reached the end of our first interview for our NBA Now and Then series. And again, before he gives you his social media handles and all that good stuff, this is the book, guys. Foul or Fair, Ethics and Social Issues in Sports. Larry Atkins. Really interesting stuff that made me think, stuff that I'd never thought of. And it's not just basketball. There's stuff in there about every sport, from football to golf to hot dog eating contests, everything in between. So thank you, Larry, for being with us. Can you tell all of our followers where they can find you?
Sure. At Larry Atkins 4. That's my Twitter. And can I add just a couple?
Sure.
I had some of my own comparison, maybe suggestions.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Have you done, let's say, Boban and Manute Bol?
No, but we definitely could.
Boban and Manute. Okay.
How about Tyrese Maxey and Tiny Archibald?
So we actually have one coming up for Tyrese.
Yeah.
Can I tell him who? Can I tell him
sure.
who you're
Go
at?
ahead.
We're going to do Tyrese Maxey and John Wall, actually.
Okay. I'll go with Tyrese on that one. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm a Sixers fan, obviously. I don't know, did you ever do the Wilt and Embiid comparison?
So we actually have another one coming up for Wilts. We're going to do Wemby and Wilt.
Victor Wembanyama. That will be our season finale for season 2, Larry. So make sure you check that out, because that's the things that Wemby's doing now is unbelievable. And you probably watched some of Wilt in your younger days, so you can probably attest to him doing groundbreaking.
Not much. A little
bit?
I caught him at the tail end.
Okay.
But yeah.
And Larry, real quick, are there any projects or events that you have coming up that you'd like to share?
I'm in the process of scheduling talks and lectures, mostly locally. So nothing definitely lined up at this point. It's kind of the early stages with that. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Larry, thank you for being a guest on our show. We look forward to supporting you, all your stuff on social media. And guys, go out and get this book. It's really, really intriguing. Some great stuff. That being said, I'm Uriah with Lucas Johnson and Larry Atkins with NBA Now and Then, the greatest comparisons. We'll check you out next time.